Gandalf. Yes, that was what they used to call me. Gandalf the Grey. That was my name. I am Gandalf the White, and I come back to you now at the turn of the tide. Hello friends, it's Carl here, and today we're going to be looking at what really happened to Gandalf when he became Gandalf the White. When Gandalf fought with the Balrog, he suffered severe wounds, burns and exhaustion, and all of these led to his death. He wasn't knocked out or passed out, he was dead. We know this because in the Unfinished Tales, the following is said about Gandalf: being sent back from death for a brief while. So now that we can agree that he died, we need to ask what happened to him and how did he come back? To answer this, we're first going to look at where the wizards initially came from. So the wizards were Maiar spirits and servants of the Valar, who were godlike beings in Middle-earth. The Valar lived in Valinor, the Undying Lands, and it was from here that the 5 wizards were sent to guide the people of Middle-earth. Now when Gandalf dies, I don't think his spirit went back to Valinor, and thus, I don't believe that the Valar sent him back. I doubt they even had the power to. Instead, I believe it was the work of Eru Ilúvatar, who was the one supreme god that created everything, and now I'll provide the evidence to this. Firstly, Gandalf is said to have, and I quote, passed out of thought and time. Now both Middle-earth and the Undying Lands are located in the physical world, and thus they still follow the rules of time. However, Ilúvatar is said to live beyond this world, in the timeless halls, and this is a strong hint that Ilúvatar himself summoned Gandalf's spirit to him. There is another quote from the letter number 156 that Tolkien wrote, which encourages this, and I'll quote it to you right now. He was sent by a mere prudent plan of the angelic Valar or governors. But authority had taken up this plan and enlarged it at the moment of its failure. Naked I was sent back, for a brief time, until my task is done. Sent back by whom and whence? Not by the gods, whose business is only with this embodied world and its time, for he passed out of thought and time. End quote. This basically tells us that it wasn't the Valar that sent him back, but something greater, the authority, Eru Ilúvatar. Now when the wizards were first sent to Middle-earth, their power was very limited and they were sent in the forms of weak old men, as their job wasn't to rule with power, but merely to give wisdom and help guide the people of Middle-earth. When Gandalf is sent back, I believe this restriction was removed, and again I'll quote a letter Tolkien wrote to back this up. The wizards as such had failed, or if you like, the crisis had become too grave and needed an enhancement of power. So Gandalf sacrificed himself, was accepted, and enhanced, and returned. He is still under the obligation of concealing his power, and of teaching rather than forcing or dominating wills, but where the physical powers of the enemy are too great, for the goodwill of the opposers to be effective, he can act in emergency as an angel. This tells us that he is now able to use his true power when he's in dire need, and Tolkien mentions an episode as an example, when Gandalf rescues Faramir and fights off the Nazgul by emitting a beam of light. Anyway, when Gandalf died, I don't think his body was moved or anything, it was simply his spirit. I believe that he wakes up naked because during his fight with the Balrog, his robe was probably burnt off by the Balrog's flames. After Gandalf awakens, Gwaihir the Eagle finds him and saves him, as Galadriel had sent Gwaihir to look for Gandalf. Gwaihir then tells Gandalf, "A burden you have been, but not so now. Light as a swan's feather in my claw you are, the sun shines through you." This again shows us that Gandalf had transcended, and that he was closer to his original Maiar form. Gwaihir then takes him to Lothlorien, where he is given white robes, and we next see him in Fangorn Forest. Now from this part, there are 2 very important changes that I'd like to talk about, and again they'll be backed up with quotes. When Aragorn, Legolas and Gimli meet Gandalf again, he seems to have forgotten some of his past. He says, "Yes, that was the name. I was Gandalf. You may still call me Gandalf. I have forgotten much that I thought I knew, and learnt again much that I had forgotten. I can see many things far off." From this, it seems to suggest that he is a changed person, perhaps reflecting that he is closer to his divinity. Also, he says that he learnt again much that he had previously forgotten, and I believe this links to the limitation that was placed on the wizards when they were first sent to Middle-earth. That now, after being sent back, this limitation was removed, and he could remember the vast knowledge and power that he had accumulated in Valinor, since before it was metaphorically locked away from him. Also, though less importantly, Gandalf tells Gimli, "None of you have any weapon that could hurt me." And this seems to suggest that he was now immune to physical harm, though this is never proved or disproved. He also states that he is more dangerous than anything they will ever meet apart from Sauron, and this is a testament to his tremendous power-up. Now one could say that since he became Gandalf the White, doesn't this mean he's basically as powerful as Saruman, since they were the same color tier now? But that's not the case. The colors didn't reflect power level, they showed seniority, and Saruman was the White, because he was the leader of their order. When Gandalf became the White, he basically replaced Saruman as leader, even though he was much more powerful than him, and we see this when he breaks Saruman's staff. Now Eru Iluvatar rarely intervened in Middle-earth, and I think the fact that he sent Gandalf back to Middle-earth and empowered him shows us what a tremendous part Gandalf had to play in its history. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, I'll be linking all the quotes in the description below. I'd also like to recommend that you check out our Facebook page, which I'll link in the description also, as I'd like to use it as a means to communicate with you and see what topics you'd like me to cover. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like and subscribe to join our fellowship today. I hope to see you all in my next video, where together we'll once again explore the wonderful world and lore of Middle-earth.